Hi, my name is Konstantin Baum. I'm a master of wine, and today I want to focus on a trend that is especially relevant this month. For Dry January, I want to talk about the topic of alcohol-free wines, and I'm going to taste a whole range of different examples here. I'm not really sure whether this tasting is going to be fun, but I'm happy to take one for the team, and I'm pretty sure that this won't give me a headache at least. So let's go. Humans have a strong connection to alcohol. We've been making wine for thousands of years, and there are many reasons why we drink a glass of wine at the end of a long day at work or at a celebration with friends and not grape juice. Wine contains many flavors that were created during fermentation, and it's not necessarily sweet, therefore matches with many different dishes, and it contains alcohol. Alcohol only accounts for up to 15% of the total volume of a bottle of wine, but it plays many different roles. It conserves the wine, it stores and transports flavor, it also adds viscosity, and it can have some positive health benefits if consumed in moderation. However, alcohol can also damage your health, and it can become a huge problem in your life, which is why worldwide consumption of alcohol is actually declining at the moment, and more people, especially in the US and in Europe, are choosing not to drink. Therefore, the alcohol-free wine category is currently growing, and I want to know whether these wines are actually good alternatives to the wines that we like to drink. Wine by law has to contain at least 8.5 ABV, and the products that we're talking about today therefore are classified as dealcoholized wines or alcohol-free wines. So if alcohol-free wine is made from grapes but does not contain any alcohol, what's the difference to grape juice then? The big difference is that alcohol-free wine is made by removing most of the alcohol from a fermented wine. In the European Union, it can only have up to 0.5 ABV, which is roughly equivalent to the level of alcohol allowed in fruit juice. Alcohol-free wine therefore is not supposed to taste juicy and fruity like grape juice, it's supposed to taste more like wine. There are different ways of removing the alcohol from a wine, but most of them involve either temperature or filtration. One method often used is vacuum distillation, where you put wine under pressure and the alcohol just boils away at room temperature. And this is advantageous as you don't get the boiled flavors that you would get from distillation, for example. Reverse osmosis can also be used, which basically uses a membrane filter in order to separate a high concentration solution from a low concentration solution. Another option is the spinning cone column that allows you to break down the wine into different fractions. So you basically have a water, an alcohol and an aromatic compounds fraction, and the winemaker can then reassemble those fractions as he wishes. I know this sounds really technical, and that is because it is. It's really difficult for small producers to get into the alcohol-free wine game because the equipment costs a lot of money, but it is possible to rent the equipment or bring your wine to a facility where it then can be processed. As dealcoholized wines and alcohol-free wines are becoming more and more important, the EU is actually planning to establish new categories. They are planning to introduce a category for wines with less than 8.5% of alcohol that allows producers to remove the alcohol and then still bottle the wine as Bordeaux, for example. And alcohol-free wines will be allowed to be bottled as table wines. So this was the theory, but now let's drink. We're starting off with the alcohol-free SCAVI and RIEDEL. SCAVI and RIEDEL is quite a popular brand, producing lots of different products, and they are quite innovative when it comes to packaging. This can't be labeled as a sparkling wine, it's labeled as a sparkling drink. So let's open it. It actually has a natural cork, just like, I don't know, a champagne or a Prosecco would. But that obviously doesn't tell you anything about the quality. It's just noteworthy. I don't know how easy it is to see through the camera, but the bubbles are actually quite big, and I don't think that they will stay around for a long time. This is carbonated, so that's not necessarily a sign of quality. That said, I don't think there's another option. If you want to make a sparkling drink from alcohol-free wine, you have to add the CO2 bicarbonation. So it smells of apple, but not really clean. It's a little bit musty. It smells a little bit like apple cider. On the palate, it's really juicy, fresh. The acidity is quite harsh. There's quite a lot of sugar there. So in this case, I think there are 49 grams per liter, which, well, is just too much sugar. But you need the sugar, I think, in order to compensate for the fact that there's no alcohol there. And the alcohol normally gives body and mouth feel to the wine, and if there's no alcohol, you have to use a little bit of sugar. I gotta say, this doesn't really remind me that much of wine, so I say no. I don't like this. The next one is the EINS 2.0 from Leitz in the Rheingau. he does quite a lot of really interesting things. And this is actually labeled as a Riesling. You're allowed to label alcohol-free wines by grape variety. Let's see whether there are any Riesling characteristics coming through. Again, a natural cork. And what is also interesting about these wines is that they have to add the information on sugar levels and so on and so forth on the back label, which gives you quite a bit of information. There's a good deal more CO2 in the glass and there's quite a lot of foam, but that's not super important to me, at least. I really want to focus on the smell and the taste. This tastes more like wine and less like fruit juice. There are flavors of lemon zest coming through, a little bit of green apple, and there's also almost something yeasty coming through. On the palate, the freshness of the acidity is very pronounced. In a blind tasting, I might actually be fooled into thinking that this is a sparkling wine. This is a sekt. The next one is another sparkling beverage from Kolonne Null, a very interesting new producer in Germany that focuses on alcohol-free wines. This is their Cuvée Blanc and it retails for around 14 euros and it has far less sugar than the other ones. So this has 29 grams per liter. You gotta be aware that those alcohol-free wines usually state their sugar levels in grams per 100 milliliters, whereas most wine producers state their sugar levels in grams per liter. So you just have to multiply them by 10 in order to get to the value that you would get in wine. There's quite a bit of pear flavor coming through, a little bit of bruised apple character as well. There's something that reminds me a little bit of yeast again. So it's quite complete, quite complex, but it also smells a little bit musty, so it isn't 100% clean in my opinion. On the palate it's quite light. I'm guessing that the reduced level of sugar actually makes it feel lighter and less profound on the palate. The acidity is quite good, it's fresh and vibrant, but the finish is not very long, but it's juicy, it's interesting, there's some complexity there too, so quite an interesting wine. So this is the Thomson Scott Noughty Organic Chardonnay. It actually asked me on the back label whether I'm naughty, and the answer is clearly not, because I'm drinking alcohol-free wine. It's a London-based brand, but the wine is actually produced in Germany for the German market, I assume. I'm not sure whether that's the case for all of the wines that are sold in the world, and it is organic and vegan, so clearly not naughty. We again have quite a lot of CO2 here, quite a bit of foam on top of the wine. It looks a little bit like champagne, a little bit. They sourced the Chardonnay grapes for this wine from southern Spain, and it clearly doesn't remind me of Blanc de Blanc champagne. It's quite aromatic, there's quite a lot of exotic flavors coming through, a little bit of pineapple, a little bit of passion fruit. On the palate it is quite light. I'm guessing that it's again because the sugar level is quite low with 29 grams per liter. So it's not very long and very intense there, but it's a fairly good wine. Or not wine, alcohol-free wine, sparkling beverage made from alcohol-free wine. The next one is a still wine. It's a Riesling from the Nahe region in Germany. It's a cooperation between Kolonne Null and Anette Closeheim. So let's see. All right, this does taste like Riesling. It's actually quite nice. There's lemon zest there, a little bit of green apple. It's really good. The acidity is strong. There's good freshness there, but there's also quite a bit of sweetness. I mean, the sugar level is again at 29 grams per liter, so it's not super sweet, but you can feel some sweetness there. It's actually pretty good. I like it. Another white wine, this time from one of the most famous producers of Spain, the Natureo Muscat from Torres winery. Torres is super well known. They're producing everything from the entry level to the high end. For those who are interested in this kind of thing, alcohol-free wine actually often has less calories than normal wine. This is because the alcohol itself also adds calories to the wine. And this bottle of wine has 26 kilocalories per 100 milliliter, while a normal bottle of wine would have more like 80 kilocalories per 100 milliliters. Muscat is an aromatic grape variety, so I'm expecting lots of flavor here, and I'm not being disappointed. This smells a little bit artificial though. It smells a little bit like, well, this bag of gummy bears, but it's not bad. I mean, there's quite a lot there at least. On the palate, it's quite intense and juicy. There's quite a lot there, 45 grams of residual sugar, so it has more texture, it's more unctuous on the palate than the previous wine. but I must say that this will get a little bit boring. Yeah, if you want something more juicy and aromatic, this is the way to go, but I think this doesn't really offer everything I'm looking for, and it's not really winey. To finish me off today, we're now getting into alcohol-free red wines. And the first one is the 0.5 Cabernet Sauvignon from Leitz. Cabernet Sauvignon in Germany doesn't have a great reputation, so I'm not really sure what to expect here, but let's taste it. I don't know whether you noticed, but all of the alcohol-free wines were actually bottled under screw cap, which makes a lot of sense. I think those wines are not supposed to be stored. Alcohol-free wines don't keep as well as normal wines do, so you don't really need to put it under a cork. When I think Cabernet Sauvignon from Germany, I think red bell pepper, green bell pepper, slightly spicy, a little bit of cassis. I don't really get any of that. It smells more like prunes or plums, quite juicy, not really Cabernet Sauvignon-like. On the palate, it gets really interesting. Think of it as grape juice with added tannins, slightly funky notes, and 45 grams of sugar. So that's not a nice combo. It smells less like wine than it tastes like wine, but the way this alcohol-free wine tastes is really off-putting. No. Next. This is the last wine, and it's another red wine. It's the Natureo Red from Torres. I was told that this is Syrah, but it doesn't say so on the label. What it tells you on the label is that it was actually matured in barriques before being dealcoholized. So let's see whether we can still smell and taste the barrique. This is interesting, almost exactly like the Moscato from Torres. This is very expressive, very intense. It smells a bit of gummy bears again. So it doesn't really smell and taste like wine, like red wine at all. Do you know the Haribo wine gums? I think this is the wine they are made from. This was really interesting, but it was really just that interesting, not very enjoyable. But I see quite a lot of potential for this category. So in a few years, we might get some really amazing alcohol-free wines. Let's see. My favorites in this tasting were the Leitz sparkling beverage and the Riesling from Kolonne Null. I'm going to mention all of the wines down below this video, and I'm also going to add the prices and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, why not? Why not experiment more with those alcohol-free wines? I'm certainly going to look out for new producers and new interesting products. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, then please like it down here. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. My question of the day is, what do you think about alcohol-free wines? Have you tasted them? What are your impressions? Comment down below. I hope I see you guys again soon. Until then, stay thirsty.